Did you know that IBM has a word usage council? This is really true. This is something we're learning because of all the wonderful leaks that are coming out of IBM and Red Hat and some other tech companies that we'll be talking about in the coming days. But we've learned that IBM literally has something that they call the Word Usage Council. And their job is to basically hunt for engineering words to be offended by. This is a very, very real thing. I want to talk about this very, very briefly. These leaks just got posted over to conservativenerds.locals.com. I'm going to read some of this to you, the article I just posted, so that you can see what it's like. Go check out the article so you can look at the high-res versions of all the screenshots and everything else. Companies and organizations such as Red Hat, IBM, Intel, and Microsoft have spent the last few years pushing for the elimination of technical terms such as whitelist, master, and man in the middle. It's crazy. What follows is a bit of an inside glance into some of the exact conversations within IBM around replacing these words, a company which has been a strong driver in the war on engineering language. Now, some of those expressing concerns, some of those within IBM, expressing concerns about technical and engineering terms appear to have little or no experience in the broader computer science field. Case in point, this curious post from someone who, according to LinkedIn, is a mainframe application engineer, but you'll see from the quote, it doesn't seem how that's possible, who first learned of the words white hat and black hat. Quote, I wanted to share an example of the implicit bias in their training materials meaning IBM, his company. I don't believe this is IBM specific. This looks to be application security sector specific. Clearly, this reveals that there is not enough diversity or black representation in that field. This is offensive and plays on the subtle racist views. Here he is talking about specifically the phrases white hat and black hat. Now, for those of you who are unaware, white hat and black hat in this instance is talking about white hat hacking and black hat hacking. This is a term that many attribute to Richard Stallman, who was created essentially based on old cowboy movies, where oftentimes the good guy would have a white hat and the bad guy would have a black hat. There was no racism involved with it. It was just cowboy stuff, right? And so white hat hackers would be hackers who were hacking with an altruistic and positive motive, right? They're the good guys. They're hacking for good. And then there's the black hat hackers who are hacking, who are being sneaky and subversive, and they're trying to do something naughty, right? Those are the difference between the two. And we've used those terms for I don't even know how long. As long as I can remember, those two phrases, white hat hacker and black hat hacker, have been in the common lexicon. Now, people responded to this quickly. Oh my gosh, wow, kind of speechless. This is an industry-wide term, but yes, it plays into the concepts of white and black as good versus evil. As someone who works in cybersecurity, I've seen the terminology. When I first heard the terminology in graduate school, I recall being a bit shook by it. Now, this is just one example of oh so many where the mere existence of a color is declared racist by those within IBM, which is a wild thing. Now, what's interesting about this is neither, again, white nor black in this usage has anything to do with skin color or ethnicity. It literally has to do with the color of cowboy hats. Let's move on. Let's talk about another absolutely delightful example of this message. In this message, posted by a software development manager who just found out about the words brown zone and yellow zone, which I'll talk about in a minute if you aren't familiar with those. He says, quote, okay, I'm on a call and I'm hearing about security-related terms like brown zone and yellow zone. Are those terms we should be concerned about? Now here's the thing that really struck me here. Note that the original poster simply had heard the words for a color, and despite not being able to think of a reason why they would be objectionable, thought that he should reach out to see if anyone else can help him find a way to find it objectionable. Now, the responses to this were great. I'm going to scroll back up so I can just read them directly from the quote here. Using colors as identifiers can be unclear, especially for people who are colorblind. Can they use more descriptive terms? Now, what's really interesting in this case is we're talking about yellow zone and brown zone. Anyone who knows much about color blindness knows that that's not an issue there. So this is a person who is literally just pulling this concept out of thin air. Another person responds, my first reaction, I can readily see them being problematic. What other zones are there? Now, do either of these colors have anything to do with skin color? No, of course they don't. Having colored zones within networking is a pretty gosh darn common thing because it makes visualizing things easy. Now, case in point, here is literally an IBM research slide showing a network model and policy model showing blue, green, yellow, and red zones. Right? Now, none of these are racist things. They're just the colors attributed to various networking and security and policy zones. This is very, very common. Now, maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe the blue zone up there in that slide above it is specifically being racist against Smurfs. I don't know. Poor Smurfs. It's Smurfism, right? Now, a side note. This is just a fair side note, and I'm very proud of myself right now. But I can't be the only person who giggles when he hears the phrases brown zone and yellow zone, right? Like, I tried really hard to not giggle as I was first saying those phrases. Those have always made me giggle. I'm sorry. I'm clearly an adolescent boy. All right. Let's talk about the word council. The word usage council. Okay, this is the big part of this. Now, of course, all of these IBM's internal conversations resulted in IBM officially banning a wide range of terms from all internal communication and from all of their products. Here's a quote that came in, and I want to read this verbatim here. To be consistent with the tech industry and to reflect IBM values, the IBM Style and Word Usage Council has prohibited the terms blacklist and whitelist. Instead, use the terms block list and allow list in all new and changed content. The term slave, which has been allowed only for products with a history of using it, will also now be prohibited. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with master and slave, there's several different usages of them. One of my favorites is in like drive chaining, having an old IDE hard drive from an older computer. You would set one to be the master and one to be the slave. It's an engineering term. It's used in so many ways. It really doesn't bother me if people do or don't use the terms master and slave in this regard because it has nothing to do with slavery of humanity. It's just a technical term. It's sort of like when people don't like the word retard being used, right? Like people say, "Oh, okay, something is retarded." Right? Well, now that's an engineering term first and foremost. Like you have a fire retardant, right? Something can be retarded. That doesn't have to be a human, but yet because that gets applied also to people in a completely different, totally unrelated context, then people get upset with those phrases being used in engineering as well. And that's a lot of what ends up happening here. And though the fact that it's gone far enough as to ban colors just because colors exist, well, that's just strange. But the key here is that IBM has a word usage council that decides which engineering terms programmers within the company are allowed to use. They have their own ministry of truth for technical words, and this is totally real. It's not a joke. Of course, we all know that this has spread far beyond IBM. All right, the last few years have been crazy with this stuff, with several companies, including IBM and Red Hat, forming the Inclusive Naming Initiative, specifically to find engineering words to ban. They've banned words like abort and man in the middle. It's crazy. I even heard one group of people were trying to ban the phrase grandfathered. Like you grandfather something in, but they didn't like that term because it has a gender assigned to it. Anyway, here's a screenshot of the 2020 IBM diversity report where they're bragging about basically, helping form the inclusive naming initiative and all that. But again, the wildest part of this, as far as I'm concerned, is the existence of the Word Usage Council, which can decide what words, engineering words, that employees are allowed to use. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. I want to thank all the whistleblowers who have come forward to provide this material and the just absolute onslaught of material. Let me see if I can bring this up here real quick here. We've learned so much so far. Every day, every 2 days, we're getting new videos, new screenshots, emails and presentations, PowerPoint slides and Slack conversations and everything. It's absolutely nuts. It's absolutely nuts. And the Lunduke Journal is going to continue publishing a lot of this content. I'm trying to really spend some time and vet this stuff as it comes in. And so far, I want to thank everyone within IBM and Red Hat who have helped me to verify a lot of this information off the books. I want to thank all the whistleblowers and leakers that have provided all of this. And I just want to say that I applaud your bravery. It's not an easy thing to do when you're working within a company and to provide this sort of whistleblower material. But I will obviously fully honor your request to stay completely anonymous and to keep your identities a secret, because that's just the right thing to do. So if any of you out there would like to provide information to the Lunduke Journal along these lines or others, we've got whistleblowers coming in from a wide variety of tech companies at this point. Go to lunduke.com. There's a link kind of near the top of the page there that gives you instructions on recommended ways to provide good anonymity and good security around keeping your identity private when you're leaking this sort of material. So I've documented some of that there. Again, go to lunduke.com to check that out. And if you want to follow along with all of these, make sure you grab a free subscription over at conservativenerds.locals.com. That is where I'm publishing all of these first and foremost. Some of these will get made into videos like this one and distributed, far and wide. But all of the articles are over there at conservativenerds.locals.com. And if you do want to support the work that we do, I recommend grabbing a paid subscription before January 1st. On January 1st, the paid subscription price goes up just a little bit to be in line with inflation, because inflation sucks. It's not my fault. So the price went up just a hair, literally exactly to match inflation. Since the last price raise. So it's just kind of keeping in line. But if you get it before then, it locks in the price, so it's a little bit cheaper for you. And saving money is good, unless you want to give me more money next week. That's fine too. Again, thank you everyone. Thank you everyone who already subscribes to the Lunduke Journal, both at conservativenerds.locals.com and lunduke.locals.com. I could not do this work without you. The fact that I can do this without advertisers or sponsors or any big tech money or big tech infrastructure coming through us in any way is just astounding. Thank you to the folks at Rumble and Locals for hosting all of this content and making it so I can publish this without fear of being censored by Google and IBM and Microsoft and so many others. I could not do this without you. All right, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. With that, I do declare end broadcast.